The Oneg Shabbat. Barry, our security guard. Shabbat Shalom for those of you who have braved the cold and are here in person, and soon enough I'll figure out how to get those who are watching remotely, and if you're out there, please feel free to say Shabbat Shalom on the Facebook feed or YouTube comments, and maybe I'll be able to tune in and see you as well, as I have in past weeks. I don't know why I can't get it. We will turn now in our Siddur to page 289, page 289. For those of you who are putting on talit, who have not yet put it on, we say the blessing. Bless Adonai, O my soul, Adonai, my God, how great you are. You are robed in glory and majesty, wrapping yourself in light as in a garment, spreading forth the heavens like curtain. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef ha'tzitzit. We turn back to page 288. Moda'ani. Moda'ani lipanecha, melechai v'kayam, shehechezarta v'nishmati bechem la, bechem la, rabba emunatecha, moda'ani lipanecha, melechai v'kayam, shehechezarta v'nishmati bechem la, bechem la, rabba emunatecha, rabba emunatecha. Thank you, Bibi. Shabbat Shalom, for putting your comment in the Facebook chat, because now I was able to see our video and we can connect even though we're over this remote distance. As we're all warming up this morning, we turn to page 292. Page 292. Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorahi, Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorahi, Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorahi, Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorahi, Elohai neshama shenatata b'tehorahi. And we continue with our Nisim B'chol Yom, our everyday daily miracles. And so I would invite anyone, before we dive into our formal blessings, to share if you have something good that has happened this week, to share with everyone here. And I'll pass the mic around so those who are watching remotely can hear us as well.
Our grandson, who was studying abroad in Spain, returned safely yesterday.
Yay.
And I was concerned because of the weather. So he is home in Summit, New Jersey.
Any other wonderful, daily, great miracles, something we're grateful to share?
I had a brief stay in the hospital, brief 6 days. My knee is getting better. I'm getting IV antibiotics every day from the doctor. And
Yay.
Not sure. It's a good miracle, but it's related to nature. The winds came and dried it up enough so it wasn't a sheet of ice most places. I'm grateful for that.
Ah, yeah, think about the way the wind comes and the water evaporates with
Before
it.
the temperatures.
Could have been a lot icier.
Yes.
Behind you, Gavin.
I'm still celebrating my first Hanukkah, which has been great.
Yay, Yeshachianu. Mazel tov. Other things to share? We're doing our sharing of good things before our Nisi B'chol Yom. Here, we'll pass the microphone to you.
I was able to open my car doors this morning, and I didn't have to scrape the windshield.
To be able to open your car doors and not have to scrape the windshield, that's a wonderful miracle. Maybe that's from the
Some
wind.
of us are not from Chicago.
Right. I feel like I have so many daily miracles this week. First of all, Hanukkah started this week. And, well, tonight will be the seventh candle. Today is, well, you can't see because they burned down last week, but the sixth candle last night. But the first candle was very special for those of you who weren't there. The Mount Laurel Township invited me to light the Hanukkah in Rancocas Woods, and some of you were there, and it was a real honor and to meet some of the dignitaries in the area and to feel the support of the greater community for the Jewish people and celebrate light and hope and freedom, and it was marvelous. And I have my daughter who came home from college. That was terrific. And we had a wonderful Hanukkah party Wednesday night, and we had a lovely Shabbat Hanukkah last night. And in our family, we say, instead of Shabbat Shalom, Happy Hanukkah, we say Happy Shabbanak. One more, Harriet.
No, I just want to add, this is the first time that Mount Laurel has asked a rabbi to participate in the service, and Laurel also, the first time.
So I'm just going to repeat that for those who are watching remotely. It's the first time that Mount Laurel and Marlton have invited a rabbi to do that candle lighting for the whole community. And it should be, as we call, the first annual.
Absolutely.
And we hope it will grow in the future. So let's turn to page 293 as we share our Nisim B'chol Yom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech bivina lahavkin ben yom uvein layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokeh kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rocha haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamechin mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'einai udnuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'korim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Oter Yisrael b'tifarav. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. On page 298, if we could have somebody lead us in the English at the bottom of the page.
These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompany the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
As we turn now to page 302, page 302. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodo le'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodo le'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. L'hagid b'boker chasecha, ve'emunatecha b'leilot. Alei asur v'aleina ve'alei higayon b'chinor. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodo le'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Hisimchtani Adonai b'poalecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranim, magalu maasecha Adonai me'od, amku machshevotecha. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodo le'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. As we turn now to page 303, continuing with Ashrei responsibly. Ashrei Ashrei ve'etecha, od yahalelu chasela. Tila leDavid, aromim chalo hai hamelech, v'avarchashim chalo lam va'ed. Gadol Adonai Hula Me'od, v'li gdulato ein peker. Lord, the joy Yishma Ma'ashecha, u'gvurotecha yomim. Adar kevod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha hasicha. Zecher rabtucha yabiu, v'tzitchacha yiranenu. Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Kevod malchutak yomeru, uvracha yidaberu, Malchut kol העמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם ביטול. ומשיח בכל חיירתו. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסי בכל מעשיו. רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיע. ואת כל החיים ישיב. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. And if someone would lead us in the reading at the bottom of page 308, the top of page 309, 308 to 309.
Even if our mouths were full of song, as the sea, and our tongues full of joy in countless waves, and our lips full of praise, as wide as the sky's expanse, and were our eyes to give off light like sun and moon, if our hands were spread out like heaven's eagles, and our feet swift like young deer, we could never thank you adequately, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, or bless your name for 1,000th, or bless of the many thousands of, or tens of thousands, the countless times that you have granted good things to our ancestors and to us.
As we turn now to page 312, 312. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu chayedecho be'Yisrael, ba'agalah, u'bizman karib, v'meru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam olam me'amaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiram di'alma v'meru amen. As we are able, we rise for Baruch Hu. Ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la la la, ya la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la la la, ya la la ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach, Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Leolam Va'ed, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Leolam Va'ed. Let's read together on page 314. The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcome than gold, a Torah from heaven. I have no light to give the morning, my Torah. My special human gift is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. And if someone would lead us on page 317.
O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose.
May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. May be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibartam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lektecha b'derech, u'shoftecha u'fumecha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam amezuzot beitecha u'visharecha, Leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Someone would please read the reading on page 321. Sing the song.
Sing the song of men and women, join in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, and each protected and cherished, a gift for our children in the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to live no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
And it's customary during the year that the melody to Mi Chamocha changes its tune to reflect the season. And so we sing, Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar B'Kodesh, Norati Lo, Osef Emet, Norati Lo, Osef Emet. that tune? In 17, Rock of Ages, or Ma'usur, right, same thing. So you know that's the Hanukkah melody from me. As we turn now to page 323, as we're able, we rise for Adonai sipatai tiftachu bia gita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahavam, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rab Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha, Pal Kivurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, B'ne'eman atah l'chayot hachol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, V'kara ze'el zeh ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, Melocho ha'aretz, Kivodo, Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir, Shimcha b'chol ha'aretz, Baruch Kivod Adonai, Mimkomo, Echad hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, V'Hu Yashmienu, V'Rachamav L'nei Kol Chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai Leolam, Elohai Yitzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. Ledor Vador Nagid Godlecha, Ulenetzach Nitzachim Kedushatcha Nakdish, V'Shivchacha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. At the top of page 329, seated. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oneg Shabbat. Mekadashei, Mekadashei Sheli Shabbat, Kulam Yismeu V'yitantu mitu v'chashabai, Yismeh Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Hamdani Yamim. Oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher lema'aseh, lema'aseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. And if we could have somebody read on page 330, page 330, where the microphone is, right?
On this Sabbath day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility
that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves, and the charity to see the best in those around us.
Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence, a source of blessing. Look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levatcha b'yirah na'avod. On page 334. Oh, excuse me. And we're going to jump page 556. Page 556. During Hanukkah, when we're in the section of Hoda'ah, which is our gratitude section of the tefillah, we offer an extra gratitude for the miracle of Hanukkah. So we turn to the prayer Al Hanisim for the miracles, page 5. Al Hanisim ve'al HaFurqan ve'al HaGvurot ve'al HaTshuvot ve'al HaMilchamot she'asita lavoteinu ve'imotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Al Hanisim ve'al HaFurqan ve'al HaGvurot ve'al HaTshuvot ve'al HaMilchamot she'asita lavoteinu ve'imotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Al Hanisim ve'al HaFurqan ve'al HaGvurot ve'al HaTshuvot ve'al HaMilchamot she'asita lavotenu ve'imotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. One more time. Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. And we continue now on page 334. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed continue our prayer now silently, whether we are led by the words on the pages of our Siddur through page 337 or other prayers throughout the prayer book, for those meditations and thoughts in our hearts. Shalom Imroma, Uya Ase Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alto Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Yahase Shalom, Yahase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'alto Yisrael, Yahase Shalom, Yahase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'alto Yisrael. Because it is Hanukkah, it's our time of extra celebration, and extra praise, and extra joy. In fact, the reason why we light the candles from 1 to 8 isn't, it was a debate between Hillel and Shammai, is Shammai said you start with 8 and you go down to 1 so you know how many days are left of the festival. And Hillel said, no, we start with 1 and we increase because in matters of holiness, we always increase. And so Hillel obviously won that debate between Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai. And so we add extra praise by turning now to page 558 as we join in the words of Hallel, which is our prayer of praise. Page 558. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likro et Hallel. And so we read Psalm 117 in English together. Praise Adonai, all you nations. Extol God, all you peoples. For great is God's steadfast love toward us. The faithfulness of Adonai endures forever. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam. Ki le'olam chasto, Yomar na Yisrael, Yomar na Yisrael, Ki le'olam chasto, Yomru na Veit Aharon, Yomru na Veit Aharon, Ki le'olam chasto, Yomru na Yirei Adonai, Yomru na Yirei Adonai, Ki le'olam chasto, Hodu l'Adonai, Ki tov, Ki le'olam chasto. And we turn now to page 364 as we continue with Kriyat Torah, Seder Kriyat Torah, for the reading of the Torah. As we're able, we rise. And Sari, would you help me open the ark? Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Iti, Uneromem Shemo Yachdav, Lecha Adonai, Hagedura, V'Hagedura, V'Hatiferet, V'Hanetzach, V'Hahod, Hicho Bashamayim Uvar, Hicho Bashamayim Uvar, Reslecha Adonai HaMamlacha, V'Amid Na'aseh Lechol Erosh, Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Ha'olam, Ha'olam, Amen. Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Ha'olam, Ha'olam, Amen. And you may be seated. As we turn to our Torah portion for this Shabbat, Shabbat Miketz, which if you would like to follow along with the Torah reading in the commentary, I'm going to be reading from chapter 41, verse 39 and following. So you can find that on page 266, page 266 in the Torah commentary, Genesis 41, verse 39. And is there someone for whom there is a special something happening or would like the honor of the Aliyah today? So why don't we all rise, and because the Aliyah means going up, so we'll join together in the blessing. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Vayomer Paro el Yosef, acharei hodia Elohim otcha et kol zot, ein navon v'chacham kamocha. Ata tieh al beiti ve'al picha yishak kol ami. Rak hakisei egdal mimeka. Vayomer Paro el Yosef re'eh, natati otcha al kol eretz Mitzrayim. Vayaser Paro el tabato me'al yado, vayitain ota al yad Yosef. Vayalbesh oto bigdei shesh, vayasem revid hazavhav al tzivaro. Vayarkev oto b'mirkevet ha-mishneh asher lo, Vayikra'u lefanav avrech, v'naton oto al kol eretz Mitzrayim. Vayomer Paro el Yosef, ani Faro, uviladecha lo yarim ish et yado ve'et raglo bechol eretz Mitzrayim. Vayikra Faro shem Yosef, tzfonat pa'aneach Vayatain lo et Osnat bat Potifera kohen on leisha. Vayetze Yosef al eretz Mitzrayim. Second blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. You may be seated as we turn our thoughts and our prayers. We turn our thoughts and our prayers now to those who are in need of healing. So we turn to page 371 in the middle of the page. If you're joining us through the blessing of technology and are thinking of people who are in need of healing, I would invite you to write those names in the chat, and those in the sanctuary will be able to add names after I share these people in our extended Adith Emmanuel family who are in need of healing. Chaim Ben David, Eileen Davison, Craig Davison, Marcy Gittler, Hugh Morton, Art Bond, Roberta Levine, Cy Kliansky, Marlene Kaplan, Susan Hubble, Jordan Maverick Steinberg, Deanna Amariello, Lisa Galda, Brian Zabel, Ed Crosby, Jonathan Burr, Myra Kaplan, Jeff Schaefer, Lula Ruvuela, Marion Gwertz, Aaron Tepper, Lily Tepper, Karen Bowen, Louis Alahut, Mary Parker, Tricia Tepper, Carol Schaefer, Mary Mednitsky, Jocelyn Jackson, Jen Jones, Shirley Friedlander, Michael Infanti, Gary Garnick, Nick Baud, Ann Marsden, Rick Ulrich, Ileana Cohn, and others whose names we should be adding at this time who are in need of healing, whether it's a healing of the body or a healing of the spirit. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Misheberach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. As we're able, we rise now as we lift and dress Torah. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah, lifnei b'nei Yisrael, v'zot haTorah. Al pi Adonai biyad Moshe, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah, lifnei b'nei Yisrael, v'zot haTorah. Al pi Adonai HaTorah, V'zot HaTorah. You may be seated as we turn now to the reading of our Haftarah, which is actually a special one for Shabbat Hanukkah. So we turn toward the back for the special Haftarah readings, to page 1645, 1645, and our Haftarah reading comes from the book of Zechariah, because in it he describes a candelabra. And what's interesting is this section of the prophets is the Haftarah portion that was connected to my Bat Mitzvah portion, because Ba'alotecha in the book of Numbers, there's a description of the lampstand. And so we find this lampstand description from Zechariah, and that is our connection for reading it on Shabbat Hanukkah. So we're on chapter 4 in Zechariah, verse 1 through 7. And if we're following along with the Haftarah blessings, they're on page 372. But before I start the blessings, is there someone who would like the honor of reading the English of the Haftarah? This is it's a really short one, just on that page. So if you're saying, I'd like to read, but not too much, this is your opportunity. There might be one very difficult name to read in there, and I'll help you out when that time comes if you need it. We'll start with the blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar bin ve'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher batorah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
The angel, is this working here?
Mm-hmm.
The angel who talked to me came back and woke me as a man is awakened from sleep. He said to me, "What do you see?" And I answered, "I see a lampstand all of gold with a bowl above it. The lamps on it are 7 in number, and the lamps above it have 7 pipes. And by it are 2 olive trees, one on the right of the bowl and one on its left." I, in turn, asked the angel who talked with me, "What do those things mean, my Lord?" "Do you not know what those things mean?" asked the angel who talked with me, and I said, "No, my Lord." Then he explained to me as follows: "This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, said the Lord of hosts. Whoever you are, O great mountain, in the path of Zerubbabel, turn into level ground, for he shall produce that excellent stone. It shall be greeted with shouts of beautiful, beautiful."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el haneheman haomer ve'oseh hamdaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hanvi'im Val Yom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shenatata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Likdusha V'limnucha, Lechavod Ultifaret, Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu Modim Lach, Umvarchim Otach, Yitbarach Shimcha Befi Kol Chai Tamid Leolam Va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And so we turn now to words of Devar Torah. Can you hear me? John? And the question I'm asking as we look at the verses that I chose this morning is, did our patriarch Joseph acculturate or assimilate? And we'll define those words a little further on. In this week's Torah portion, Miketz, we read about how Joseph came out of prison and he offers God's interpretations of Pharaoh's dream, and as a result, Pharaoh puts him in charge as number 2 of this, what the dreams were interpreted as 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. And so the verses I read entail. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God had made this all known to you, there's none so discerning as wise as you. You shall be in charge of my court, and by your command shall all my people be directed. Only with respect to the throne shall I be superior to you." Pharaoh further said to Joseph, "See, I put you in charge of all the land of Egypt." And removing his signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand, and he had him dressed in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. He had him ride in the chariot of his second in command, and they cried before him, "Abrek." Thus he placed him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, yet without you no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh then gave Joseph the name Zaphanath Paneah, and he gave him for a wife Osnat, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And thus Joseph emerged in charge of the land of Egypt. So the question is, does Joseph acculturate or assimilate? So let's define what those words mean. Acculturate means to alter by acculturation, which is through sharing and learning the cultural traits or social patterns of another group. So when you acculturate, you're sharing and learning those social customs of another group and taking some of those on for yourself. And you might even change them. Assimilate is to take in and incorporate as one's own, to absorb, or to bring into conformity with the customs, attitudes of a dominant social group, nation, or the like, to fully adapt or adjust. So if you're acculturating, you're sharing some of those social, cultural activities, traditions. When you're assimilating, you're adopting for your own and being absorbed. I think that's a helpful word, absorbed by the dominant. So as we're thinking about whether or not Joseph acculturated or assimilated, let me share some of those specifics that I've noticed in our Torah portion of Joseph's behavior. We know from this reading that Joseph's name is changed. I mean, we know also that our patriarch Jacob had his name changed, and it wasn't he who changed it. Here again, Joseph has his name changed, and it's not he who's changing it. And it's changed from Yosef to Zaphanath Paneah. And later in the story, during the famine, Joseph's brothers come down to Egypt, and they don't recognize that it's Joseph. Why? Because Joseph's appearance is different. Okay, he might have been 17 years old, and now he's 30, and so they don't recognize him. And he's changed his clothes, right? We read in our portion how Pharaoh dresses him in the Egyptian clothing, and we also know from our Torah portion that the brothers spoke to Joseph through an interpreter. But Joseph understood what they were saying. So we know that Joseph kept his native tongue in his brain, but was speaking Egyptian. And when he was speaking to these people from the land of Canaan who were coming to ask for food, who, by the way, just happened to be his brothers, they were speaking in Hebrew. He understood, but didn't let on. One other story about Joseph later on in the portion is that when Joseph's children were born to Osnat, who is his wife that Pharaoh gave to him, an Egyptian, he names them as follows. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh or Menashe, meaning God has made me forget completely my hardship in my parental home. And the second he names Ephraim, meaning God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction. I find this naming of children so interesting, right? We have him name how he's forgotten the homeland and the bad stuff, and he's made, and how Joseph's praising God in the process of that, right? Praise to my God, who's made me forget the affliction and the strife, and has let me become fertile in spite of it. So, God is still part of it in the choosing of the names for his children. Another thing I find interesting is that we read this Torah portion faithfully. It always seems to fall around December, and this time of year when it's most dark, and Jews are celebrating Hanukkah, and we watch the majority of our country celebrating Christmas. And I think over the years, what Hanukkah has looked like has evolved, at least in this country. I teach the confirmation in 10th grade, and we are very much blessed at Addis Emmanuel. There are these two Israeli young ladies who are known as Shinshini, and they've come to the area, and they come like once a month to teach my confirmation students. Terry, have you had the Shinshini in your class yet? Ella and Leah? Okay. And they're coming to the various classes in our religious school to teach about their experience as Israelis. And when they were teaching the confirmation students about the differences between Israeli Hanukkah and American Hanukkah, they were saying how in Israel there's not this big shopping lead up. They don't even get presents. They might get money, yes, right? There's not this big display of lights everywhere, and they light a Hanukkah, but it's a much different experience of Hanukkah. It's a much less big deal in Israel than it has grown, I would say, in the United States. And as I've mentioned, I've seen evolving changes in what Hanukkah looks like in our country. And I have to say, this past Sunday, at the religious school, last day of religious school before break, it was going to be Hanukkah that night, I saw so many different, what we might have called once upon a time, ugly holiday sweaters, right? But sweaters, sweatshirts, t-shirts with some kind of Hanukkah logo, expression, pun on so many of our students, and they were all different. Maybe a couple people dressed alike on purpose, like Sandy and I did. And yet there's this whole array of ugly Hanukkah sweaters, so to speak, out there. I think a lot more people are putting stringed lights in front of their homes, blue and white. And there are people hanging banners that have a Hanukkah on it from their homes. Blow up dreidel and blow up Hanukkah decorations on the lawn. People will buy white, something that they might call a Hanukkah bush or a Hanukkah tree, and have a Jewish star on the top. And I see these more and more being incorporated into our society. So another one, mensch on the bench, right? Another adaptation, if you will. So I'm wondering in my mind, did Joseph acculturate or assimilate? And what examples of Hanukkah observances today would you consider to be acculturation, or do you feel is assimilation? What is your sense of where our society is now, or maybe you have other ideas. So, acculturation, assimilation, Joseph today. Michael has the microphone, and I'll get that for anyone who would like to share a first comment. Please say your name. No thoughts? Oh,
I'll lead it off. Every week when I read, I always think of bringing some question. This description of American behavior, that's assimilation.
assimilate.
We get that from the media, from the business arrangements. It's all got to do with money, adaptation, and if you buy too much of it, you'll forget your own holiday. We have to remember this is a celebration of freedom, a Jewish, tremendous redemption of Judaism. On the other hand, when I read the Torah portion, I do not get the impression that Joseph ever turns his colors. Pharaoh asks him, I got a dream. You're a very good dream interpreter. He says, I don't interpret your dream. God interprets your dream. He never forgets. And there was another example which I can't recall. I just had it flickered by with it. So God does not, the Chumash does not let us forget that Joseph was never turned. He remembers his family, his father. He's filled with emotion with his family and his father. He never forgets them. And I think it's very clear that he is not assimilated.
So Joseph is not assimilated, but you find some of the things that we're doing, especially in the area of the commercialism of Hanukkah, how that has become, how that specifically has come assimilation, and we're caught up in the business culture of the holiday. Okay, thank you for your thoughts.
No, but my thinking about how it becomes so materialistic, I think it's more than that. I think it had a lot to do with Jewish parents feeling that their children were being left out of Christmas. That's why in Israel it's just Hanukkah. That's what it was when I was a kid. We got a dollar every day. We lit the candles. And we were always told it was not a major holiday. And I think the commercialism is part of it, but I do think some of it has to do with the parents feeling like, oh my God, their children are being deprived. So now we have to compete and be part of. And some of it is fun, and some of it I find offensive. I love the lights on the houses, but the Hanukkah menorah in my window is how I show my community that this is what I celebrate. I don't have to put up blue lights. I think that's why that has all happened. I think we sometimes forget our important holidays because Hanukkah has taken on such a life of its own. And it's fun, but I'm not sure the reason for it was such a positive one. We are not Christian. And a rabbi once said something, how to explain to children that it's like going to somebody's birthday party.
I do that.
You
Yeah.
do that, right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if other people have heard that. You are part of the party, but it's not your birthday.
Right, and you still might get a goodie bag and get gifts,
Absolutely.
and you can still have fun and enjoy it. Actually, I was speaking with one of my students recently who said that she was torn going to her relative's house and feeling like she firmly feels Jewish, but is going to this Christian celebration and doesn't want to feel that that's put upon her. And I used the birthday analogy. She said it made her feel at ease, like I can still be Jewish and I can still rejoice with my non-Jewish relatives. Here's here's the other challenge, I think, is that we're finding more cases in our society where there's more than just Judaism in the house. And there is a Christian parent. And in that house, there might be both Jewish celebrations and Christian celebrations. So it's both. So this time of year it would be both Hanukkah and Christmas. And I remember when I lived in Illinois, there was a neighbor down the block. They had a child my daughter's age, and the mom was not Jewish, and the dad was Jewish, and they did both. They celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas. And so while that might not be my suggestion and recommendation, that's how that family chose it. So I decided, I had such a nice relationship with this family that my job was just to teach what I could of Judaism, embrace them as people, and give them any authentic Jewish opportunity possible, whether it was come to a Passover Seder, come to celebrate Purim. Here, let me tell you about the story of Jacob and Esau, and teach so that they could experience Judaism in what I thought was inauthentic.
You know, it's so interesting you're saying this because my next door neighbors are a young couple with a child. She's probably 2 years old. They are Hindu. And they celebrate, is it Diwali now?
Diwali?
Yeah, it's the first time last year that I had ever really heard of it, and they decorate outside, and it's beautiful. And I didn't think they celebrated Christmas. They are from India, and they are Hindu. And I noticed last week that they put up Christmas decorations. So I thought it was appropriate to buy them a little gift because they've done some things for us that were very helpful. And I walked into the house, and I said, I'm assuming that it's okay to bring you something for Christmas. He said, oh, come in and see our tree. And then what he said to me was it was interesting. Without being judgmental, it was a little disturbing to me. He said, we're always going to celebrate Christmas because we don't want our daughter to feel different than American. Well, she is, she's Hindu. And I said, Merry Christmas. I said, you will see that we have our Hanukkah, and we are Jewish, and we don't celebrate Christmas. And I said, next year we'll invite you for a lot because it was going to be here because of the house back and everything. But I thought that was such an interesting comment. Like, we have to do this because we don't want her to feel different.
So I will tell you, just because you reminded me of a story, when my daughter was in 7th grade and was taking Spanish, the Spanish teacher decided that it would be a good idea to have a game with the students and see if they could guess what in Spanish was the Christmas song. She was paired up with a Hindu young girl because, quite honestly, Skokie, Illinois has filters into the high school that has upwards of 90 languages. And they got 4 out of 11, and my daughter's comment was, not too bad for a Hindu and a Jew. And I said, say something to the teacher, no. And she's in junior high, so I'm not going to fight her battles if she goes. So I decided, I was so angry. And then actually the next year, when she was in 8th grade, had the same teacher for Spanish. I decided to reach out in a loving way instead of a judgmental, angry way. And that was, I was exchanging email with the teacher. I said, have you ever heard of something called Ladino? You're a Spanish teacher. No, I haven't. Ladino is a Jewish language, which is like Hebrew and Spanish. And here's a song, and I gave her a link to Ocho Candelicas. Maybe some of you have heard it. Are you familiar with it, Ocho Candelicas, the Ladino? Sarah, do you know Ladino? Oh, okay. So I gave her this, and I said, here's something else you could teach. I don't know if she taught it to her class, but I was able to teach her in a way that I thought was, a positive and bridge building as opposed to, why are you doing Christmas songs for your class that has a minority of Christians potentially? Wait, can we test the microphone so people who are listening can hear you as well?
When my youngest son was in first grade, they had a Christmas party. And he asked me if he could go. And I said, yes, they went to all this stuff. But he came home and he was crying. And I said, what's the matter? He says, Mom, they didn't have they didn't even mention any Jewish songs or anything. So then I went to the school and I talked to the teacher. And the next day they did something. They sang some Jewish song. I think something was Jewish that he was very pleased. So I went and thanked the teacher about it.
So what we really need to see is to integrate into our society not just the Hanukkah next to the Christmas tree, but we see it in some places where, the Kwanzaa Kinara is there and the Diwali lights, and to learn about everyone and say, even though we know no matter what day December 25th is, we're not going to get our mail because it is a federal holiday and we live in a country, that we allow room for everyone to have their own kind of culture, religion. And I was just checking to see if anybody on Facebook wanted to make a comment about Joseph acculturating, assimilating. Goldie, you have a comment?
When I was in elementary school, it was required by the teachers to read a portion of the Bible every morning.
Wow, required by the teachers, is this in New Jersey?
In Philly.
In Philadelphia,
Okay.
to read a portion of the Bible every morning.
In December, I am now in a class that was totally Jewish. The teacher was Jewish. The principal was Jewish. But we also always heard the Christmas story read.
Interesting. With all Jewish classroom hearing this Christmas story
They
because
had
that
to
was
read
the culture of
that
the country.
portion. Also, when I was working, the chorale from work was going around caroling, and one of the guys from the group came up to me and said, "You were raised in a public school, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You know all the Christmas carols."
Right, so those of us who grew up in public schools where it wasn't as diverse as it's becoming today. Sari, what kind of, I'm just curious, when you have what I might call winter concerts, whether they're the choir or band or orchestra or songs or whatever, do you find that it's neutral, mostly Christian, a mix? Wait, Sari in the back, that are currently in public school. Are you in public school or are you in private school?
It's like a mix.
It's a mix. So you
little
have
bit.
had some Jewish songs too?
I've had like dreidel.
Okay, so I think that's a start in some ways. Right, because that's what they know at the time. All right, well, thank you everyone for your comments. I think I've discussed this time of year as the December dilemma, and that's often in the context of people where there might be one Jewish parent and another Christian parent. But I think there's a dilemma sometimes for all of us in trying to find our comfort level during this time of year in how much we do assimilate or acculturate and hang on to our Judaism and be proud of that, or want to feel a part and represented, like your son did when there was no Jewish song, like "Where Am I?" And that we keep in mind not just who we are and remember our Judaism, but think of other people who also might not be represented and recognize them as well. Shabbat Shalom. As we turn now in our Siddur to page 374, we return the Torah to the Ark. So Sarah, if you could help me with the Ark. Chaim hi lemachazikin ba v'tomecheha meushar deracheha darkei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha b'nashuva Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem. And we remain standing as we continue with Aleinu at the bottom of page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula li'otzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. As we turn our thoughts and prayers to those who are no longer with us, we turn in our Siddur to pages 598 and 599. As we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died during this period of Shiva and Shloshim. If you have a name to add in the chat for those of you who are joining remotely, please feel free to do so now. We mention Aaron Newman, father of Brooke Einbinder, grandfather of Matthew and Rose, Harvey Alpert, husband of Harriet Alpert, Edith Snyder, aunt of Dave Fowler, Steve Abeloff, husband of Cheryl Abeloff, father of Jessica and Justin, Joshua Mead, son of Howard Mead, Barbara Baldwin, aunt of Greg Mazel, as well as those who died at this season in years past, whose yard sites we observe on this Shabbat: John Bradshaw, Stephen Branch, Mildred Chaikin, Rita DeLange, Jerry Fowler, Cantor Paul Freimark, Beatrice Golden, Louis Jacobs, Dorothy Kavitsky, Harold Kay, Rose Levin, Harold Levitt, Dove Lusterman, William Mannheimer, Samuel Malatsky, Brian Schulman, Esther Silverberg, Nathan Silverberg, Michael Winogron, Samuel Zack, and others whose names we should mention at this time. Zichronam levracha, may their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash b'mei rabbah, v'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon uv'yomechon ufayeh dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omayah, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha b'riyachu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiram di'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of